So can you tell us who you are, what you studied and what your current job is?
I am Eelco Hoogendoorn. I studied a variety of things, but I guess mostly applied mathematics is how I would summarize it. And I'm currently unemployed, so I'm a hobbyist mathematical researcher. Quit my job about a year ago to take a bit of a sabbatical, you might say, and rekindle some of my old interests in working on stuff I'm interested in.
And what are your interests?
What are my interests? Well, let's stick within the mathematical, I suppose. But I like all kinds of simulation. I really feel that I don't really understand something unless I've sort of recreated it myself on my screen and really have seen it in action, if you will. So I'm not a very abstract thinker, you might say, more of a visual thinker. And that always I find really empowering that you can do that with your computer and really bring something to life that kind of unifies my interests, I would say.
Okay, and have you always been interested in like those kind of stuff?
From a pretty young age, yeah. I was trying to make games on my computer, I guess, from about 10 years old, and been doing a lot of programming ever since, yeah.
So my next question would actually be like, what would your 10-year-old self think about what you're currently do today?
Yeah, I think he'd be all right with it. You know, back in the day, perhaps I thought more about game programming than I did about physics or mathematics, if you will, but I guess I found out along the way that I didn't really have patience for creating nice graphics or whatever, and you know, just got drawn more into the algorithms and that side of things. But no, I would not be entirely disappointed, I guess.
Why do you need the patience to do more the graphic things?
Well, if you want to create an end-to-end game, right, then there's a lot of very different disciplines involved in that, and unless you either build a good team or you have the motivation to do all of these things yourself, then you're going to end up not doing all of these things yourself. So one of the most complete things I made, I think, as a kid was a clone of one of these bridge builder games, right, where you're supposed to build a bridge and you can drive a train over it. And so I was able to spend 95% of my time working on a physics engine, and the graphics were fairly trivial. So that worked out for me, and I actually turned that into a somewhat usable thing that other people got to enjoy, let's say. But I stopped sort of setting that as a goal along the way.
Or do you ever consider like getting back to that, or?
I guess not. No, no, it doesn't have my interest as much anymore. Like making games, that is, as I did as a kid.
I can tell you have to obviously not knowledge. Someone like me, I don't have the knowledge. But how would you explain to someone like me what geometric algebra is?
What it is.
Yes.
What it is. Wow. That's boy. That kind of wasn't prepared for that question.
Or maybe like a 10-year-old to make it a little bit easier. That.
Well, I'd start. I wouldn't explain it in words. I'd explain it in terms of runnable code examples. I'd say, hey, look, this is a thing, and this is what you can make, and here's how you run it, and I'd start explaining it in those terms. That's the way I learn best myself, when I have something concrete that I can actually pick apart step by step. How to actually explain geometric algebra? I have no idea.
How come is it?
It's not. I don't think it's particularly difficult. I think first of all, I'm not a great educator, so it takes a certain skill and a lot of effort, I think, to put something in a format that is easily digestible for a particular type of audience. And I think the people that are organizing this conference, they're all giants of the field in that sense, right? So Leo is one of the organizers, and he wrote one of the books on the topic, and that really got me interested first. And now Stephen, one of the other organizers, he's been giving it a big push by having a very big online presence and websites and runnable code examples, and that also rekindled my interest and got me interested again. Yeah. But I don't claim to have any particular aptitude for that.
You have, I think you've got a bit of experience, so do you maybe want to share your experience with
Yeah, sure, but so I maintain some open source software projects, and you know, I do that, I guess, out of a similar motivation that I'm excited. It's something I'm excited about, and you want to show that to the world, and you're hoping that it's useful to other people, and not out of altruism, but just because you want to share that excitement with other people and get feedback and whatnot. So there's an element of education there, you might say, but that's not something that, you know, what's my primary driver. I'm primarily doing it out of my own interest, and then if somebody else thinks it's cool, that's great, but I don't tend to spend a whole lot of time making that happen per se, no.
Mm-hmm. Imagine if you meet someone who has doubts about going into like geometric algebra, like how would you convince them to?
Try it out. That's with all of these things. If you haven't tried it, then you don't know what you're talking about. And of course, if you're new in mathematics, there's an infinite number of different directions you can take. So that's maybe a bit of a cop-out. It doesn't help you decide between the infinite number of different things. But I think it's a very interesting field, and there's just a lot left to do still. So if you're looking for, if you find open-ended questions interesting, then rather than studying a field where all the books have already been written, then I think it's an excellent sort of career choice, if you will.